Well, what a pleasure it is to welcome back to What's Next. No stranger to the program, and an organization I watch with great interest is Hylton Kallner, who is the CEO at Discovery Bank. Those of you who don't know Hylton, I've known Hylton for a long, long time. He's an actuary, he's a business builder, he's the Chief Executive Officer of Discovery Bank, as I said, and he's really been part of Discovery's ecosystem. So since 1996, I hope I've got that date right, Hylton, and he's been serving in all sorts of different positions. So if there's anybody that knows Discovery backwards, it's Hylton. And my first dealings with Hylton were long ago, was in the marketing side. But I mean, it's amazing since 2006 how many positions at Discovery you've held. I don't think there's anybody that knows Discovery as well as you do.
Thanks, Aki. I've been around a long time, and but it's been brilliant, and I've been able to experience virtually every part of the business, and the bank is a really exciting part of the business right now.
Well, it is. It absolutely is, and I'm just loving what you guys are doing with the bank. And congratulations, by the way. I see that you're winning all sorts of accolades, and most recently you've won the best digital bank in the My Broadband category at the My Broadband Awards. Best digital bank. And when you consider how many banks are digital, in fact, every bank at the moment is digital and doing all sorts of digital things. That's an amazing accolade to win, and it really echoes and is built on all the innovation that you guys are doing at Discovery Bank. So congratulations on that prestigious award.
Thanks, Aki. And it is. I think it's a reflection of what we're trying to build, which is the most innovative digital bank, and we're building it with our clients to a large extent. It's a full service bank, and we're responding quickly to their needs, and I think that's reflective in kind of the whole experience and the whole ecosystem that we're building out. So the engagement levels are great. Hopefully the kind of the user experience for our clients is really good, and I think that's what's being recognized. So we're really pleased.
Oh, that's awesome. Well done. And I'm loving, data and analytics and algorithms and analyzing stuff just is the one thing that really fascinates me. And it's something that Discovery's been doing a long time, and it's something that Discovery Bank is doing on steroids. And I was fascinated by the recent research that was done called the SpendTrend 23 that you guys did. And, you showed all the different spending levels, and it's been quite interesting just to see us where we are economically and where we are and what we're doing as a country. And obviously there are concerns. I mean, inflation is pretty high, but you gathered some very interesting insights from this information, and I just want to start off by covering that research and what were the things that stood out for you, and why did you guys actually do this particular research? So let's kick off with that, and let's kick off with the SpendTrend 2023 report. What makes this data so important in the context of what I've just said?
So I think that there are a lot of economic indicators that are quoted and that float around. But I think where we're uniquely positioned is essentially at the sort of epicenter of the economy, in a sense, where we can see exactly what our clients are spending on. And it puts us in quite a unique position, in a sense, to be able to use the data that we have to inform our products, and we do that. And so, as we've observed people traveling a lot more post-COVID, we've invested in travel platforms and fast track through the airport and the lounge at the South African airport. So we really gain a lot of insights from that for our own product development. We also use the data to give feedback to our clients on how they can save money and how they can improve their financial position. But the power of this report is, I think, to give real context to the kind of narrative that we often find out there, which tends to be very high level, often based on kind of economic indicators and economic trends that are not really reflective of the kind of the person on the street. Whereas the data that we hold in the bank really does give us a unique insight into how much people are spending. So, you spoke about inflation. We can see exactly how much they're spending, what they spend on. So the different categories that they're spending on, and then how they actually spend. So the kinds of trends, are they spending in store? Are they spending online? And as a result of that, we quite, we're uniquely positioned to I think give context to how we are really tracking as a nation, and as an economy. And that's what SpendTrend 2023 does, is it gives a kind of a retrospective analysis over the last 4 years to understand what's happened pre-COVID, then during COVID, then post-COVID, in terms of the spending patterns of South Africans. And then on the back of that, to try and interpret and look to what are the trends going to be for this year. And that's what we've done. So we partnered with Visa, who have probably the largest global spend database on which to base these kinds of insights, and we've brought that together with our data set, which gives really kind of detailed information on individual spending, the transactions, family kind of composition, demographics, and the two together are quite complementary and have given, we think, some really unique insights for South Africans.
No, absolutely, and you're spot on about the travel. I mean, it's you actually struggle to find air tickets now, and I know you've got your platform and you offer great deals on travel, and I can just see the queues at the airport and people's faces who don't bank with Discovery and that have to use the normal queue as opposed to the express queue. So I love the time that you save travelers when they arrive at the airport and you've got that express queue at OR Tambo. It's great. But you touched on Visa and the partnership that you have with Visa, and of course Visa's been around for a while. They understand data, they understand what their consumers are. You mentioned that the different attributes that you bring to the table, what Visa brings to the table. Apart from the data, what else does Visa bring to the table? Why did you specifically choose Visa to compile this report?
So Visa is our banking partner in South Africa, and
Okay.
they're the biggest globally. So it was a natural kind of a natural fit for us, and I think that they've got unique insights into the kind of spending trends and payments trends globally as a result of that. So they really were the perfect partner for us, and we think that the report that's been produced does reflect that. So some really kind of interesting insights, as you say, around travel in particular. Travel, the queues are long, and people are traveling or spending more on travel than pre-COVID. But that's really a result of the cost of travel increasing quite substantially over the last couple of years. We've had significant air fuel inflation, and the capacity in the system has reduced as a result of the impact of COVID on some of the airlines. So by our estimation, there actually are about 130,000 less seats per week on domestic travel available. So the sort of the need to try and get the best deal on flights and get access to flights is important for consumers. And as you say, that's something that we've identified as a real need for our clients who would otherwise really be exposed to significant price inflation on airline tickets.
No, it's absolutely fascinating. And of course, as you said, Visa's been around for a long time. They've got a huge historical database of previous events. But we've certainly been thrown many curveballs, over the last 3 years. We've had the pandemic. We know the effect that the pandemic has had on us all globally, and the supply chain, etc., etc., etc. You touched on airfares, and of course that's largely attributed to the shortage of energy resulting from the war that's happening between the Ukraine and Russia, and I guess all of these curveballs create quite a bit of strain on global economies and travel, as you mentioned, the price of fuel. But let's touch on the pandemic. And of course, this has also led to, food inflation, which is a big issue for many people. But the pandemic had a really big impact and effect on consumer spending, as has been documented in your report. How has the overall consumer spending recovered since the lockdown? Because I'm looking at supermarkets, food is up, but I see that things have almost back to normal.
Yeah, so that's our sense as well, and that's what's reflected in the report. Is that when you look sort of through the cycle from pre-COVID 2019 to post-COVID 2022, we see about a 22% increase in sort of overall average spend per client or per card across the sort of the South African landscape. And so over that period, essentially, we are back to kind of in real terms the pre-COVID levels of spend, and the economy or the spend levels of consumers have rebounded fully. And that's what we're seeing in the report. So spend on average in 2022 was 22% up relative to 2019, and that's up across the board. So whether you're looking at groceries, which are the biggest spend area for consumers, or travel, or eating out, they're all up quite substantially, and that's a good reflection of kind of economic activity returning to normal.
Yeah, I found that statistic fascinating, Hylton. I mean, the trend in your report that you talk now about the groceries and how much money we're spending on groceries and how much more money we are spending on groceries, over 20%. And I'm trying to work out whether we're eating more, whether we're eating healthier, and why this spending spiked during the pandemic and why it remains at such a high level today. And of course, there's also the food inflation that's happening, but yet we seem to be spending more on groceries. What factors are causing this? Have you got any insight into that from the report?
So I think the report speaks mainly to the actual spend levels itself, but we break down the kind of the trends by income segment, and that's one of the kind of unique aspects of this report, is that it doesn't look at the market holistically as one kind of globular population. It breaks it down by the various kind of socioeconomic categories of mass market, mass affluent, everyday affluent, and then the high net worth segment. And because of the way that credit cards and debit cards are structured, we can do that quite accurately. And we see that the people that are most impacted by inflation are the mass market. When we look at food inflation and grocery inflation, and that I suppose that highlights, or it's driven by the fact that there's simply less flexibility in smaller baskets. In the kind of the higher income segments, consumers have much more choice in the sense of the kind of substitutes and scope for savings that they want to try and achieve in their basket. At lower income segments, the kind of the basket sizes are smaller, there's less flexibility, and so you tend to be exposed to core items like the price of bread, which has increased 80% over the 4 years. So those kinds of things are really what's driving the kind of the underlying inflation that we're seeing.
Okay, no, that's interesting. You touched on earlier on the travel industry, and for me, that's incredibly fascinating. I've just, been recently traveling internally in South Africa. As I mentioned, the airports are packed, things are back to normal. Yes, we do have capacity constraints. We know what's happened in the travel industry in South Africa and how many airlines COVID impacted. But, despite the fact that the travel industry, had this loss and has suffered quite a bit, it's amazing how it's rebounded, despite the fact that there are additional airlines that have come on board, and the price of air tickets is relatively high compared to what it was, say, in 2019. Yet people are there, they're traveling, and I don't know what it is, cabin fever. People want to get out, people want to travel. It's fascinating to watch how this industry has rebounded in recent times. So have you got a take on that?
Yeah, so I think that the sort of the term that I think has been used to describe it is revenge travel. Sort of the kind of pent up demand during COVID that we're now seeing play out. But what's interesting, and because we can see where people spend when they travel, we can also sort of break down where people are traveling to. So is it international? Is it regional, or is it domestic, as you've described? And what's interesting is that in every income segment, we're seeing more domestic travel more local travel within South Africa than we did pre-COVID. And I think that sort of reflects the value that people get when they travel within South Africa. But I think people rediscovered how beautiful our country is and how great it is to travel in South Africa during COVID. And so we're seeing a very, very strong growth in domestic travel, and that's a really positive trend for local tourism.
Yeah, it's great. And also, when you take into account the cost of fuel, if you have to use your car to travel somewhere, you take into account the wear and tear on your car, the toll fees, the fuel, etc., etc. I've done the calculation, and more often than once, it's actually cheaper to take a flight to get to where you're going, and it's faster, obviously, as well. What I found interesting is, and we certainly live in a very interesting country, don't we, Hylton? I mean, the challenges that we as South Africans face are so unique to South Africa, yet we've got this incredible resilience and this credible energy and positivity around us. But I found that the one around load shedding was fascinating, because the report found some interesting correlations between eating out and the different stages of load shedding. What's going on there? Could you expand on this?
So this is a fascinating insight, Aki. And when we looked at the trend around restaurants and takeout, and just how the spend was playing out there, we noticed that towards the end of 2022 there was a kind of a mini spike in restaurants and takeout that was just beyond the kind of what you would expect for that time of the year, and that gets our actuaries and data scientists really excited. So as they sort of delved a bit deeper into the data, what they saw was actually the correlation was to load shedding stages, and the interesting insight there is that as load shedding has increased, or as the stage of load shedding increases, we see increased spend in restaurants and takeout. And I think it's probably to be expected in a sense that you anecdotally, if you can't cook at home, you might go out or you might order in. But it also reflects, I think, just how well the restaurants and takeout operators have acclimatized. They've invested in generators, they've made alternatives, and so I think the benefits are being reflected there.
Hylton, that's absolutely those insights are absolutely fascinating, and it's amazing how we as South Africans are adapting our lives accordingly based on those load shedding schedules and where we eat and how often we eat and what we eat. Now, during the pandemic, the other interesting thing was that it really sparked online shopping, and it's now becoming incredibly popular. I talk to people often and I ask them, when was the first time you started using online shopping? And it was during the pandemic, and they haven't looked back, and they're spending more now than they've ever before on online shopping. And e-commerce certainly is taking off in this country, and it will be interesting to see the future research on e-commerce and what a massive jump we've had in the last 2 years. But it remains popular, and I'm sure that it's increased on the pre-pandemic levels. We must certainly have seen a massive spike in e-commerce, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down, is it?
Yeah, so I think the kind of the change in shopping behavior that we observed during COVID was extreme. There was this massive shift online as people didn't want to go into stores, and so that was driven at the time by kind of, I suppose, health risks and concerns. We immediately after COVID saw an interesting phenomenon where there was a return to stores, and people wanted to go back and get out of their homes. But what we observed over the last year is that behavior that was entrenched during COVID, where people became comfortable with online shopping, and they became, the level of trust was established during COVID. That's enabled online platforms to really grow and to emerge as a kind of a strong channel for all kinds of retail. And so, I think the peaks of online shopping that we saw in COVID are sort of the levels that we now find to be the norm. from a shopping perspective. And what's interesting is that tends to change though by day of the week. So what the report shows actually is that people tend to shop more online earlier on in the week. So sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Their preference is around online shopping. And the second you get close to the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, that's where people tend to go into the stores. And so what we're seeing is that the kind of the shopping preference now is often driven by convenience factor and so kind of social factors. So, when you're at the office, it's easier to just order something online and have it delivered to you. On the weekend, where you've got time and you're much more relaxed, people like to go into the stores, and we see that playing out. So it talks to kind of, I suppose, a maturation of online shopping, and it's sort of being driven now by convenience and trust and efficiency for customers.
What an absolutely fascinating report. I love this stuff, as I can hear you as well. Just love this kind of data. When you look at that data and you look ahead as the CEO of Discovery Bank, and you're kind of trying to plan scenarios and look at what's going to happen, and especially from your actuarial point of view, are there any trends that Discovery Bank expects for 2023 and beyond based on this data? Is it likely to change significantly, or are we likely to see this stabilize without huge surprises? And I guess that also depends on what happens from a geopolitical point of view globally. But based on where we are today, what is your outlook going forward on this data?
So we think that there are a few kind of clear trends that do come through. So the first is just the continuous growth in travel, and in particular, we think domestic travel, which is particularly attractive both for local South Africans and for international tourists, and that positions us very, very well. The second is this continued move online, where we see the kind of the trend towards online spend continuing as people become more comfortable with it, and we saw online being really sort of strong in the 31 to 40-year-old age band, and as more people sort of come into that space, we expect to see the continued strong trend to online spend. And then the third is probably an interesting one as well for you in the context of digitalization and what's new in the sense that we see much more digital payments and contactless payments, and we think that that technology is really going to come to the forefront this year, and that talks to a much less or much more cashless society as sort of digital payments become the norm and become much more prevalent, and we think for a digital bank that's particularly exciting.
Sure, that's so interesting. I mean, I know you guys were the first to introduce products like Apple Pay, for example. Do you have any stats, more or less, what percentage of the payments that your customers make at Discovery Bank are, digital in terms of, using these kind of apps to tap and go instead of using a physical card? Do you have those kind of numbers in terms of the total transactions that take place on a monthly basis?
Yeah, so I think in terms of point of sale, we've seen significant growth in contactless. Now it's over 60% of our point of sale transactions are sort of in digital wallets. But I think what's also interesting is that we have over 60% of our payments, EFT payments, are real time in the bank, and that sort of talks to people using digital payments in place of cash, and just how easy it is to make a kind of real time payment now. And as we brought the cost of that down, we've seen the take up and usage increase significantly.
No, that's astonishing. Hylton, just a final question. I mean, just backing up on your award, and congratulations again. There's a tremendous amount of innovation that's gone into the bank, and I've been watching the changes since you took over as CEO, and certainly the bank, and I was at the launch of the bank, and it's been extraordinary to see from the day the bank was launched to where the bank is today, and how much you guys are innovating. What kind of innovation can we expect to see from the bank over the next few months, over the next year or so? What exciting stuff are you working on? And I know that you often can't tell us about that, but the innovation curve is quite astonishing at Discovery Bank.
Yeah, so I can't speak about the kind of the next few months or the next year, but what I can tell you is in the next week, we've got probably one of our most exciting product releases in the history of discovery that's going into the bank, and that's our new active rewards platform, which goes live. And so, this weekend, actually, all of our Discovery Bank clients will be able to access our active rewards programs in the kind of the newest form that we're about to take live. And that goes live this Saturday. So if you're a Discovery Bank client, then you can open your Discovery Bank app, and you'll see these 3 rings that reward you for physical activity, for driving well, for spending your money through the bank, and you'll be able to play a completely kind of personalized game board that rewards your positive behaviors in these areas, and it's all going to be in the bank, much more valuable than ever before, and that's something we're really excited about.
That is so cool. It's almost you're adding that gamification, which is great, but to be able to see those important indicators as a customer, to see exactly how you're doing and capitalize on the rewards is great. Does this happen in real time, or is it almost in real time?
No, it's pretty much real time. You as you exercise, you'll see that coming through after every drive. You can see how well you did. Did you drive well? And every time you spend, you'll actually see that transaction sort of taking you a little bit closer to closing your spend ring every week.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I look forward to watching that over the weekend. I'll be playing around with it, and I'll give you that feedback. Congratulations once again, Hylton, and thank you very, very much for your time. And thanks for sharing those interesting trends that you and Visa did with that research paper entitled SpendTrend 23. And what a fascinating impact to this economy, to the global economy. And I'd be interested to, in the future, when we chat again, if there's comparisons to the rest of the world in terms of our spending patterns and what we spend on food and travel, if they correlate together with this latest data. But we'll leave that for another time. But Hylton, thank you so much for your time. Hylton Kallner, CEO at Discovery Bank, chatting to us on What's Next.
Thanks, Aki.